Well, hey sisters, Donna Parteau here, welcoming you to day 18 of our Hope Again series. Together we're studying my book, Becoming a Vessel of God's Power. Give God 30 days and see what He will do. Today I want to talk to you about opening your heart to God-prompted prayer. God began to shape my understanding of prayer many, many years ago when I read an article in Billy Graham's Decision magazine. It was written by a grandmother whose daughter and grandchildren were serving on the mission field in Africa. And she was awakened one night, prompted, burdened to pray for her daughter and her grandchildren. Of course, she didn't know what their circumstance was, but she did know this strong call to prayer on their behalf. Well, it turns out that at the very moment that God awakened this grandmother and put it on their heart to pray, those precious little grandkids were in a car with their mother in a stalled Jeep directly in the path of a stampeding herd of elephants. Now, how many of you know that in any given situation, the elephant has the right of way? And elephants don't veer off, they charge forward. But at the last minute, the herd turned and the family was spared. Now, we need to think about something. If God was concerned for the missionary and those precious children, why not redirect the elephants without waking up Grandma? I'll tell you another story. I shared that example at a conference in North Dakota, and at the break a woman came up to me with tears streaming down her face. And I knew she had a story to tell, and she sure did. She and her husband were also missionaries in the Congo, in the heart of Africa, and her husband contracted malaria and was gravely ill. And one night he called his wife to his bedside to say their tearful goodbyes because, as he put it, not going to make it till morning. Well, just then, I believe that the eyes of the Lord were ranging throughout all the earth. He saw one whose heart was fully committed to Him, that missionary couple. And then He began to look for another who would open her ears and open her heart to God-prompted prayer. And He spoke to a friend of theirs in California. He awakened this woman again in the middle of the night and burdened her to pray for this missionary couple. And it was so clear to her that this was God. I mean, this wasn't her taking out a piece of paper and making out a list of who she thought she should pray for. No, nothing like that. It was God-prompted prayer. And she wrote down the exact date and time that she began to pray. And she remained on her knees until she felt kind of in her spirit like, okay, it's okay now. I'm released from this prayer burden. Wrote a letter to her friends, and sure enough, it turns out that right around that very moment when the missionary said, not going to make it till morning, God awakened this friend. And she remained on her knees until what was about noon the next day in Africa, when the fever broke. And by the end of that day, that man, that missionary, was completely healed of the malaria that was threatening to take his life. And so my question for you today is, why wake up Grandma? I mean, doesn't God know what Grandma goes through to get to bed at night? You know, the lotions, the potion, the hot tea, the warm milk, and then she's got to wake up every few hours to go to the bathroom, and she's finally getting a few moments sleep, and God wakes her up. Why? Why does God want to wake up His people and call us to prayer? I would suggest to you that prayer is so much more powerful, so much more powerful than most of us realize. I do believe that prayer moves the hand of God. I do believe that E.M. Bounds, in his book on prayer, got it right. His opening sentence is that prayer is the capital stock in heaven by which God carries on His great work upon the earth. Why would Jesus command us to pray that God's will would be done and that His kingdom would come if His will was going to be done and His kingdom was going to come whether or not we prayed? I mean, I do not believe that Jesus would give us an exercise in futility. I believe there's a real sense in which we are partnering with God through prayer to usher in the presence and the power of God and to bring it to bear right here on the earth so that His will be done right here on earth as it is in heaven. I believe that our assignment as Christians is to pray so that heaven will invade earth. Think about it. I know I'm stretching some of you, but read God's Word and see if it does not bear out what I'm teaching you today. And that's it. And I'll talk to you again tomorrow. God bless.